Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak with Confidence brought to you by Princeton Toastmasters. I'm your host, Ritu Kaul, a member of this vibrant community of public speakers. At Princeton Toastmasters, we believe public speaking is a muscle anyone can build, and the club provides a supportive environment for people to practice their public speaking skills. On our podcast today, we have a very special guest who's not only a seasoned Toastmaster and longtime member of our club, but also an author. He's written a wonderful book on disabilities called A Billion People in the Shadows. I was personally moved by that book, and it throws light on how people need to look at disability, people with disability in a different way. We're going to talk about that and much more with Doug today. Doug, welcome to the podcast.
Delighted to be here with you, Ritu.
I am personally very excited to have you on this podcast because normally when we get members on the podcast, we are normally talking about the communication skills and about Toastmasters. But with you, I think we've got a book today that all of our viewers would love to know more about. So I'm excited for our conversation today. Before we deep dive into your Toastmasters journey and the book, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and the experiences that shaped who you are?
Sure. I grew up on a dairy farm in South Central Pennsylvania, about 3 hours west of Central Jersey here. Then went off to college and majored in dairy science with the idea of becoming a veterinarian. I went to Virginia Tech and then took my first anatomy and physiology class, and I did enjoy that so much. So I decided maybe I shouldn't be a veterinarian, but I did enjoy uh, research. I got involved in a research project. So then decided to go on and get a graduate degree in dairy management and operations research. I went down to the University of Florida for that. Then I worked in the dairy industry for 7 years in a couple of different roles, partly back on the home farm, but mostly at the University of Wisconsin as an outreach education specialist, taking information from the university out into the field with farmers and companies. And then ended up going back to business school at Duke, and then Johnson Johnson recruited me out of there. And I've been here in central New Jersey since I started working for Johnson Johnson back in 2000, so 26 years now almost. And the other thing I certainly would need to mention is that I got involved with just disability in the workplace about 10 years ago in Johnson Johnson, and helped launch and lead their global employees with disabilities group, and just have been more involved with disability in the workplace. And then since taking actually no longer work at Johnson Johnson, I took an early retirement package a little over 2 years ago, and I'm now focused on disability education, advocacy, and empowerment work. And that's when I wrote the book after my. I don't think I would have been able to find time to write the book while I was still working. It's a there's a lot that goes into it, as I learned.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a quick snapshot of I think, a long and a very versatile journey, I would call, from
Yeah.
dairy farm to doing the education you did in dairy to moving to your business school and then Johnson and Johnson, and now being so deeply working with the disability communities. But tell me, in all of this, where did Toastmasters show up for you?
Sure. I joined Princeton Toastmasters in December of 2013. My second meeting was the annual holiday gala, so that was certainly an enjoyable way to start my Princeton Toastmasters career. I'd done a fair amount of public speaking in that job at the University of Wisconsin, where, as I mentioned, I'd taking information from the university out into the field. But then we hadn't done that much public speaking in over 15 years. And I was looking to do some more public speaking related to disability because I saw an opportunity to make a difference there. And so I wanted to build that muscle, as you mentioned in your intro, just get back into practice of doing that. I Googled Toastmasters clubs here in central New Jersey, and the only one that had an updated website was Princeton. So I was like, well, these people
Wow.
have their act together. This is the one I should go check out. And I am delighted that I fell into such a wonderful club here at Princeton Toastmasters.
What were your early experiences in the Princeton Toastmasters Club? And the reason I ask is because people could have different experiences depending on the club. Some clubs are very small. Club like ours is very large. What were your initial experiences? Did you feel that it was a friendly community? Did you feel that it was easy to get speaking slots? Did you have mentors? Because there is a stickiness people feel with the club and they continue the journey. And I see in a club like ours, there are people who've been there for 10 years, 15 years or
Sure.
more.
I think two things really stood out to me. One is the sense of community and camaraderie that the club has. It really puts a lot of emphasis on providing a safe space and really helping people wherever they're at in their speaking journey to develop, and just that real sense of community. Like I said, my second event was the holiday gala, and then shortly thereafter, a few months later in the spring, I'm forgetting exactly what anniversary it was, maybe the 30th anniversary of Princeton Toastmasters. So a big event that brought Princeton Toastmasters together from over the decades, and just a really great community. And I always remember one thing somebody said at that anniversary event was that shortly after he joined, his parents attended a meeting with him, and they remarked to him after the meeting about just what a great community and what good people these were, and there was a good group to spend time with, and that always stuck with me, and it certainly rings true. And the second thing that really stuck out to me is just the tremendous quality in the speakers. There's a lot of experience, as you mentioned, those longtime Toastmasters, and there's just some really tremendous speakers at Princeton Toastmasters that you can learn from. And I always remember my very first meeting, there was a person, he gave a pretty good speech, and I expected that the evaluator would just give him all this praise about his speech, but she gave him the appropriate amount of praise, but she also really pointed out a number of ways that he could have done a better job on that. And I'm like, and that really impressed me. Like, wow, it's not about just being nice and saying nice things, but when we talk about the gift of feedback and really helping this speaker get to the next level to really improve, that they weren't just going to say nice things, that they were really going to push him a bit to reach the potential that he could as a speaker. And that was another thing that really attracted me to Princeton Toastmasters, and I've seen throughout my tenure here with the club.
That's a very good point you have raised because speaking practice can happen in various ways. You get speaker slots, you can give your speech, and that's the end of it. In real world, you will never get a feedback on how you did a presentation or if you are sometimes speaking on stage. But I think the format of Toastmasters about giving feedback and evaluation, and as we call it, gift of feedback, is a special one because in a safe, practiced environment, there is feedback coming in, which is valuable. But also, I have seen over time that there are seasoned evaluators. It's a balanced feedback. It gets to you the highlights or good things in your speech, but at the same time also gives the areas of opportunity. And the interesting incident that I feel, because the club has a lot of seasoned speakers, is that even with seasoned speakers and advanced speakers, there's constructive feedback coming. And I believe, communication is not like there is no finish line. You can keep getting better with experiences. So even if you're at an advanced level, an
For sure.
evaluation helps you to even, hone your craft much more. And I think that's the
100%.
value of, yeah, that's the value of evaluations. But
Yeah,
on
one
that
one
point,
one other
yes, please.
one other real quick thing on that. It's not just the evaluator, but after the meeting, people would come up and give me feedback, or certainly we have, the papers that you get hand out with your ballot to write down feedback, and people were very generous in providing their feedback after the meeting as well. And again, when you have so many, as you say, seasoned speakers, that is so valuable to get so much feedback from not just the evaluator, but from all the wonderful speakers that are part of the club.
Absolutely. I have seen your evaluations, Doug, and I have to say they are very insightful, balanced. Um, and there are few people who give evaluations at a very different level, and I consider you one of those. Tell me, when you're evaluating speakers, what are the things you're looking for when you want to give them a constructive feedback, apart from the fact that there's a body language, there's a presence? What do you look for in a good speaker or a good speech?
Sure. And I maybe would preface that by saying when I was, it may be surprising to people, but when I was an undergrad in dairy science at Virginia Tech, the department professors there took communications very seriously. And so that already impressed on me the importance of being a good communicator, both written and verbally. And so that's, 40 years ago now that that was impressed on me. So I've, have 40 years of experience sort of critically looking at speeches, looking at presentations, and just over that time have developed, I've seen a lot of good speakers over that time, obviously, and I've seen speakers that maybe weren't as good, but you can learn from that as well to say, well, geez, what could this speaker have done to do a better job of communicating? And I don't, when it comes to me evaluating speech, I just keep it really pretty simple as far as, what are the basics of is this person effectively communicating to me? Is there content? Does it make sense? Does it flow logically? And then is it presented in a way that's easily digestible to the audience? So that's where everything starts for me. Just those very basics of does the content flow well? Does it make sense? Is it something that I'm able to understand as they're speaking? And then just in the delivery, as far as then just is it again a way that I am able, is their speaking volume, is it loud enough, are they speaking at a good rate for me to absorb it? And then so that's the foundation of it, and then you can add certainly the higher level type things as far as things like body motion, or moving your body throughout the speech, vocal variety, and then just other, maybe some things that really stand out as far as, some great vocabulary that they use, or certainly, alliteration in the speech, just things that sort of, catch your ear a little bit, like, oh wow, that's sort of a next level type thing that they include in their speech, and that I want to call that out. So I try not to make it that complicated and just go with the basics. And the final thing I'll mention with my evaluations is just, again, learning from the seasoned speakers that we have in Toastmasters. And I do this in general with speak, not just evaluating, but all speakers. I'm always looking to learn from other speakers. What do they do that I like? And the same with evaluations. I've learned, so many little tips, things that I heard from other evaluators in the club, like, oh, I liked how they do that. Next time I do an evaluation, I'll have to try to incorporate that into my own evaluation. So those are the things that go into my evaluation, and how I've improved, I think, as an evaluator since I've joined the club.
I love the point you made about learning from each other. Even though you're a seasoned evaluator, you're a seasoned speaker as well. But there is so much that you learn in company of speakers who are advanced. That's always it's a good thing in a club. Tell me, what is your view on, there are speakers who are good and there are speakers who have a presence. According to you, how do people traverse that journey from becoming a good speaker to a speaker with presence? And does Toastmaster, the format of Toastmaster, help people build that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the number one thing is just trying to be yourself. And not everyone, when you talk about the presence, I think what really leads to presence is just having the confidence to be yourself and to be comfortable up there, and not feeling like you need to follow a certain script or a certain way of doing things, but you're just yourself up there, and you're comfortable. And I think that leads to having that presence, and whether or not it's, and I think that, well, maybe I'll as I'm rambling, thinking out loud here, the other thing maybe is just not taking the craft of speaking seriously, but not taking yourself too seriously, and having a looseness about it, and not trying to show people, uh, what you, I guess what I'm trying to say, and what I often see in speakers is they don't necessarily come across as their authentic selves. They try to make themselves look impressive, and I think it is really how you connect with the audience is you have to really be authentic, and you have to show uh, your warts as well, and that's what really connects you with others, because it's easy to get up and talk about, oh, how I'm so great, I did this and I did that, but what really connects with people is when you show the challenges that you've had, and maybe when you weren't your best, and how you had to learn, and how you stumbled, and how you had to fight through difficulties, just like we all do in life. And I think that just getting to the point where you're comfortable being very authentic up on stage is what really allows you to connect with the audience and creates that presence in whatever form is natural to you. Again, being your natural self and being that authentic self. And the final thing I'll mention on that is, a lot of times when I'm doing a speech on maybe a sensitive subject, or I'm talking about disability specifically, I'll think, I don't know if I want to share that, because that's maybe a little too personal, or that sort of makes me look bad when I do that. But when I think about it, that's like, oh, that's actually the stuff that people connect with the most and comment on the most afterwards. So that's absolutely the most important stuff to include in the speech. The thing that makes you maybe a little nervous about this might be just a little too personal, or a little too, embarrassing. But that's what really connects with people, and that's the most important stuff to put in there and really create that presence, I think, as well.
You said it very well. Presence comes from authenticity. And while you were talking about it, I think you touched upon vulnerability also. Many of us, you don't know whether you want to talk about your weaknesses or failures or those vulnerable moments. But guess what? Everybody's had some part of their lives where they have struggled with things. And I think that's what people connect with. And I've mostly seen people also get inspired by that. If somebody has had a challenge and they've had a positive attitude towards it, or they've been able to overcome some part of it, or they found a methodology or framework to go across that barrier, I think that's what people value. And I always believe that, you and me were talking about it, that communication is in the service of the audience. And when the audience is listening, they don't want to know how great you are or how you've been
Right.
a winner throughout your life. They want to understand, is there some life lessons they can learn from your journey that relates to them? So I think I really like the point that you made about how you can have presence.
Yeah, 100%. And I love your line about serving the audience. And that's, I think, the most important thing is not focused on making yourself look good, but thinking how to best serve the audience, and how to best communicate your point. And a common mistake I see a lot of people make is they'll talk about something, and they try to make it they try to make themselves look smart, and they make it very complicated, and the audience just doesn't understand that, because the audience may be completely new to this topic. And so what really, I think, can separate a really good speaker is they make it very simple and digestible. A lot of times I would coach speakers at Johnson & Johnson, and a lot of times, especially interns that would give an end of their internship presentation. And I would say a common suggestion I would give to them is, think about if you were giving this presentation to one of your grandparents, and you have to make it simple, because your audience, they're not working in the same part of the business that you are. They don't understand just how that part of the business works, or some of the terminology or the acronyms, or when you say, so what why are you doing this, and what does it really mean? And think of it, again, explaining it to someone like a grandparent that has no knowledge about that, and that really would make a big difference in their ability to communicate what they're doing and connect with the audience, as opposed to just trying to, again, to show how smart they are, and talk it, and in ways that the audience can't even understand. And so a lot of times people will think, oh, that's too simple. I don't want to talk down to the audience. And really, you're not talking down. You're actually connecting with in them in a way that many speakers don't.
We talked about how better speakers are made through practice, feedback, and a supportive community. As mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, Doug is not only a seasoned speaker, but also a voice on disability. He's the author of a book, A Billion People in the Shadows. In part 2 of this episode, we will dive deeper into his book. Join us for part 2. The link is on the screen now.